Applications, and I think a few of you have already asked me a couple of very interesting questions. So I'm going to, answer your queries while giving you a download of all the subject matter related to this. And I'll also show you some good examples about how to go about collecting the job requirements and specifications and then forming a, JD out of that, right? So that's the goal of today's session, right? And I have structured it in this particular fashion. So we will start with the basic understanding of how you can understand the job requirements, and then we'll talk about different benefits, importance of job requirements. Just give me a moment, okay? I think there might be some distraction, so I'll just close it off. Yeah, sorry. Right. So yeah. So then I'll move forward and I'll explain things which differentiates a job requirement from a job specifications. Okay. And then we'll also talk about the different benefits and objectives of job specifications, and we'll discuss some examples, case studies, etc. Okay. So in this entire process, where you feel that you need to ask me a few questions, you can stop me. But I would say that I'll take a pause in between, after each topic or subtopic rather, right? And I'll give you enough opportunity to ask questions. And eventually, at the end of the session, we will also have lots of questions and answers. Okay, so don't worry, you'll get enough time to ask me things. Okay, so now talking about this particular term, job requirements, right? So job requirements are nothing but whatever is required for a job to function properly, right? So let's say if you are hiring for a social media manager. Now, one of the job requirement or qualification could be that that person must be very active on social media. He or she must have the skills like generating some ideas, concepts for social media content, graphics and creatives, etc. Right? So these are just few of the skills and the qualifications that you might look for. Now, in terms of, let's say, qualification, whether he or she should be a graduate or not, so that's something, your organization needs to figure out whether the certain education qualification like graduations or post-graduation is important for that role to function properly or not. Okay. So basically, job requirements are nothing but qualifications and all the necessary skills for a certain job position. So eventually, we want that person to perform in that job role. So obviously, as good as the requirements would be, so it will always help you attract the right kind of candidate. And for even for the candidates, it's very important for them to know that what kind of skills are very important to fit into this kind of job requirement, right? So that's very, very important. So this is what the job requirements are. Okay. And normally you will find most of the popular job requirements are written in the form of a list. So most likely you are going to find them in the form of a bulleted list kind of thing, wherein it will mention that, let's say, for example, uh, a post graduation is must. Let's say a post graduation in media and communication is important for this role, and maybe 3+ years of experience and so on, right? So all these are the qualifications, and then you might add some skills such as, let's say, a very good content writing skill, someone who is very good at generating ideas and things like that, right? So all those kind of things can be listed down, and this is basically in addition to what a typical job description would be. So a job description might encompass a lot of things, for that job to function properly. But these, I would say, would be mostly the bare minimum requirements, which is important. So sometimes you are hiring for a job of a fresher, right? A fresher would be hired, and then there's a lateral hiring that happens in the organization. So in these cases, the actual job description might be different from each other. Like, maybe you don't expect too many things from a fresher, okay, while you expect a lot of things from the lateral hire, right? But maybe most of the qualifications and the skills required for that job to function properly might be very similar, because that is the bare minimum need for that particular job, right? So this is very important to understand. So when you are getting a job requirement created, it's very important to talk to the different stakeholders. That includes the team which manages that particular department or division, right? So let's say if there's a marketing department and there's a marketing head, so you must talk to that person that how important these qualifications and skills are for them, and they will also give you the download about which qualifications are important for them, which are negotiables and which are non-negotiables, right? And of course, with the list of the skills that is required for a job to function. For example, let's say uh, you are hiring a graphic designer. Now, this graphic designer, this person might be very creative in nature, so that can be one of the qualification or skill rather, I would say. And in this case, one of the skills could be that person must know Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop, or Illustrator, right? Now, there might be 10 other tools, but then in job requirements, you also need to mention that which are your non-negotiables. So at the bare minimum, maybe you expect that person to know Adobe Photoshop, right? And but the other tools, if they have those skills and experience, it's good. But otherwise, it's negotiable for to an extent, right? So these are the things which are very important for you to understand when you are writing down a job requirement. And most of the time, you write down the job requirement while having this one-to-one conversations or maybe a team meeting kind of thing uh, with the hiring team. Okay. Now, so as I mentioned, that job requirement is a small section out of the job description. So what exactly is job description? So job description is basically all the detailings required, with respect to a job position, right? So let's say a social media manager again would be an example, and the social media manager, that person needs to have experience, certain level of experience, qualification, skills. But as part of the day-to-day roles and responsibilities, what that person is supposed to do, right? So all of these kind of things would be covered under the job description. So your job description is much more comprehensive than just a job requirement section. Okay. So it's a more holistic thing, I would say. And most of the time, when you're applying to a job position, what you read over there is actually a job description. So job description tells you everything, whether what's your roles and responsibilities with respect to that job function, what are the requirements, and in terms of qualifications and skills, right? Or any other detail which might be important for you. Sometimes, the company might disclose things such as salary, or what is the mode of job, like whether it's a part-time job or it's a full-time job, and what is the work mode, whether you have to travel to the office, whether it's a work from home or work from office, things like that, or it's a hybrid mode. So all those kind of details actually form the job description. So yeah. Now, as I mentioned that, most of the time job requirements are the base or the pillar of your job description. Okay. So this is what, it will make candidates understand that whether they are eligible for this job position or not, right? So they will see, okay, yes, there's a requirement for post-graduation, which is like a non-negotiable for your company. So if there's an undergraduate applying to the job, so he or she will probably understand that, okay, this might not be the best fit for us because the company is looking for a postgraduate candidate over here. I'm just a graduate, right? So this also helps you in screening and the filtering criteria for a particular job position. Okay. And most of the candidates, if they actually read the job description clearly, so they will also understand whether they are a good fit for the job or not. Okay. Right. So these are some of the jobs, benefits of the job requirements. So one is, of course, finding the right fit, because as an HR or hiring manager, you're going to struggle a lot to find the right fit for that particular role for which you have posted this job description. Okay,
Yes,
right. And uh, yeah. So, when I say the right fit, so right fit is not just about the qualification and the skills alone, right? It's going to be a composition of everything that the job description tells you. Okay. Now, let's say I might be very good at maybe running Google ad campaigns or Facebook campaigns. Okay. But this company put something in the job description saying that one of the job requirement is that the person should be able to read lead a team of 10 people, and he or she must have handled a team in the past, right? Now, let's say if I have been an individual contributor, even though I apply to the job, but I might not have the team management skill, and that's something which goes against me. So basically, it's like saying, okay, you might not be, you might be skilled enough and maybe even qualified enough for this particular job, then you still might not be the right fit for the role because you don't match up to one of these criteria, which is basically the team management. Okay. So these things are very important. So it basically ensures that there's always a right fit for the role, right? The second important thing is it enhances the employee performance. So see, a lot of time hiring is all about, I would say it's more like a matchmaking, right? So we often say that matches are made in heaven, when it comes to marriage and some other institution in our society. Okay. So very similar to that, like when you are hiring for your company or for a client company for that matter, right? It's very important that you hire the right people. And again, when I say right people, it's not just about the skills, qualifications, and the expertise. It could be something beyond that also. It could be about the cultural fit in the company. Okay. So all those kind of things are very important. And if that happens, so that will definitely uh, ensure that employee would always perform well in the given setup in that particular role or the job position. Okay. So this is very important. Now, the third thing is, of course, the productivity part. So if you're hiring the right people, so that person already knows the job, how it has to be done. He or she already has all the qualifications and the skills. So definitely, they don't have to struggle much when it comes to the productivity. Okay. And as I told you in the first session also that hiring cost is very important for a company, right? And especially given today's scenario when there's a lot of hiring and firing going on, a lot of attrition happening at most of the companies, right? So if you are not doing an efficient hiring, so that will definitely increase the cost of the hiring. So if you have the proper job requirements written for that particular job position, right? And that is part of your job description. That will also ensure that you are only talking to the relevant people, and it will decrease the timeline and also the overall cost of the hiring. Okay, so that's why it's very, very important. Now let's try to understand a little bit of differences between these two. Okay, so what exactly a job description is and what a job specification is. At times it might look like very similar to each other, but there are certain differences that we're going to talk about. Okay, so now, as I mentioned that, normally a job description would talk about your job role or the job position for which you are hiring. Okay. So it's a very descriptive kind of thing, which will have at least 3 to 5 different sections that includes your qualifications, skills, roles and responsibilities, etc. Right? And it will also include things such as the nature of the job, right? Whether it's an individual contributor or you're going to lead a team. If you're leading a team, you're expected to be a senior manager or a middle management on a personal, right? And what are your day-to-day activities and duties with respect to that role? Like you're supposed to attend client meetings, you're supposed to get the requirements done from written from the client. So all those kind of, minute details must come under the job description, and all these requirements in terms of skills and qualifications that we're talking about should be part of that job. So that's basically what the job description is. Okay. Now, a job specification is basically uh, it consists of your qualification, skills, knowledge, abilities. So all of these kind of things. It's more like, your ability, I would say, right? So whether or not you are a person who can perform the job. So there are some details of the job, like what you need to do on a daily basis. And then you have something which relates to your qualification, skills, knowledge, etc. So that's something forms a part of the job specification. So normally you will find both of them being posted together, right? And now the job description, as I mentioned, it's more with respect to the detailings of the job. Okay. So that's why it's also called as functional description of a job. So what you do, whether you write content, whether you design graphics, whether you lead a team, whether you report to a senior manager, whether you're doing some analytics job and forming daily reports for the company, right? So all these are nothing but these are the functional description of your job. Okay. Now, when it comes to job specification, so it's more like essential attributes of a job holder, right? So whether you are an analyst or not, are you qualified or certified in web analytics? So these could be certain attributes, or whether you are, having 5 years of experience or not, or 10 years of experience in the middle management, things like that. Whether you're a postgraduate, if you are a postgraduate, whether you're a postgraduate in marketing or analytics, right? So all those kind of things are essential attributes of a job holder that comes under the job specification. Okay, right? So the job description is essentially the output of job analysis. Now let's try to understand how exactly you will arrive at this. Okay. Now I was talking about that example, and I think someone asked me this question that, if she doesn't understand the detailing, especially if the candidate asks her a question with respect to the job description or details, right? So how would she answer that? So normally, when you talk to the stakeholders initially, before even coming up with a job description, right? You will talk to them and try to gather as much information as possible. Okay. Now, I'll give you a very recent example. So, what has happened? So, we are hiring for a performance marketing manager for one of our client companies, right? And so, the first job description that I got from the company, it consisted of a lot of details with respect to Meta. Some of you might not know Meta, but Meta is basically a company that owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and all these platforms, right? So, they call it Meta. No. So earlier it was called as Facebook, but now because Meta has so many different social media platforms, so it has been renamed to Meta instead of Facebook. Okay. Now, the job description shared by the hiring manager, it only talked about the responsibilities related to Meta as a platform. So basically managing Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and running and managing campaigns over that. Okay. Now, when I got into a call with her and I tried to understand the requirements of the job, okay, so then she started telling me more about the job, like, what kind of person she's looking for. And she mentioned about, all these details that the person must be very good with running Google Ads also. But for her, priority was Facebook ads and Meta ads, rather, I would say, which is basically a combination of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and all. Okay. Now, uh, what she meant was that the person should have more experience working with Meta platforms, but at the same time, that person must have a decent knowledge of Google platforms, which includes your Google search, YouTube, etc. Okay, and running Google ad campaigns. Now, her job description didn't have any mention about Google and related platforms. Okay. And when I started discussing with her and getting to know more details about the job, so one of my first feedback was that we must include some of these terms related to this because we don't want to hire a person who only knows about Meta but doesn't know about Google. See, 80% or 20%, all of these kind of things would come up while we are having a discussion with that person, right? During the screening call or maybe initial get to know kind of call. But eventually, we want to ensure that everything that goes in the job description is accurate and it will help us attract the right or candidate. Okay. So when you do a job analysis, when you discuss with your stakeholders, you will always come up with few pointers, and these pointers are the ones that are going to help you to create a very good job description. So that's what it is. Now, job specification is actually a section out of the job inside the job description itself, right? So all your skills, qualification, expertise, competencies, etc. It is also part of of that. So normally once you are writing a job description, a very detailed kind of job description, and you're going to break them down into different sections like roles and responsibilities, and maybe a summary of the job description, then qualifications, skills, etc. So eventually you'll be able to write down the job specification also, right? And that's kind of an output of job description. Okay. Now, you can see it normally consists of things. I'm sorry, I think, people keep joining in between. So anyways, yeah. So, job description would consist of things such as job title. So obviously, if you're hiring, so the position must be having a name, which is basically job title. So let's say social media manager or marketing head. So these are the kind of details, right? Then it could have other details such as the location of the job, whether it's in Mumbai or Pune, and of course the roles and responsibilities, which are also known as duty, etc., right? So all of these kind of things would come into the job description. Now, job specification, which goes along with the job description, it will consist of some other parameters which are essential, essential attributes that a job holder must have, and for you to even consider them qualified enough to apply for this job, right? So it could be about their education background, like what kind of degree they hold, whether it's a graduate or postgraduate, or graduation in a certain subject matter. Maybe, sometimes company also do a mark-based filtering, especially for the fresher candidates, right? So all those kind of things can also come up here. And some other additional details like whether the freshers can apply or whether you need a minimum, let's say 3+ years of experience and so on. Okay. So all these kind of things can come over here. Okay. So that's how you distinguish between the job description and job specification. But as I mentioned that these would go along with each other, and more or less it's part of the complete job post that you're going to publish for your company, right? So that will help candidate apply to the right job, and also for you to be able to filter out the right candidates. Okay. So any questions as of now? All right. So now I'm going to look at some of the examples before I come down to this particular slide. Okay. And let me just open this. Right. So you can see this. So there's a mention of this particular job, lead generation specialist, right? So this is more of a title of the job. The title of the job would be lead generation specialist, right? And there will be certain details which will come up over here as part of the job overview. So first of all, there's a mention of experience. So now this becomes more like, job specifications. So whether you have an experience band of 3 to 6 years, then only you can apply. Now the location could be any. So that means that it's mostly the remote job that we're talking about, or something that can be done as a freelance, as it's mentioned over here. So job type is freelance, plus one more is, yeah, part-time, right? The work mode is work from home, and yes, that's the position number. No, the skills. So these are the some of the mandatory key skills, and these are mostly the must to have kind of skills, right? So as I was giving an example of that particular job description from my client's profile, that the candidates must know Facebook and Instagram, but Google kind of becomes a secondary skill. I mean, I won't say that they don't need to have it, but yes, this is their expertise in Facebook and Instagram will take a preference over the skills in the Google ads. Okay. So that's how their JD would be crafted. Okay. And some more details like the area and etc. Now, if you go to the job description, so now this is where you'll find much more detail about how the job looks like. So, and this is very common, So first of all, you like to talk about your company because, as I mentioned in the first session also that, you are a sales, acting like a salesperson, and your job is even more difficult than the salesperson because you are pitching to the candidates and also to the company, right? So you're pitching the candidates to the company and company to the candidate. Okay. So this part also becomes very important when you talk about your company. You should not only write down what your company does, but it should also showcase a little bit more about your vision or idea of the company growth. Okay. Because if I'm an employee and I want to apply to this job, I would not just like to know that what exactly the company does. Maybe, there are hundred and thousands of other companies that does the same thing. Okay. But a very good description would be like, I like to probably highlight some of the growth stories of my company, saying, okay, over the past 5 years, we have grown to a team of 500 people. Okay. And we are looking to increase our footfall by 2 to 3 times in the next 5 years. Okay. So when someone reads something like this, they become very excited because they think, okay, yes, I can see that the company is planning to grow. I mean, they're already in the growth phase. At the same time, if I join this company, maybe this could be the right time for me. And because the company is in the growth mode, so my growth can be faster than uh, maybe the growth in some other company that I might be considering at that moment, right? So, when it comes to job description and you're writing the about part of the company, I would say that you should highlight some of these key things, right? And that should appeal to the candidates because, see, if you are a fintech company or maybe a D2C brand, right? So people already can figure out that they can go to Google and they can search about you, saying, okay, yeah, this is what the products and services are, and this is what you do. So that is okay. But then what else? You have to sell yourself to the candidate, right? So this is very important, and you have to highlight some of the things, and it can also involve some uh, not only the growth factors, but also some other things. You need to play around with the minds of the candidates. Like it could be something that talks about the leadership of the company or maybe their history. So it could be anything. It's not just about the growth, right? There are different ways to instill trust and credibility in the mind of the candidates. Okay. So this part is something that is normally overlooked by a lot of hiring managers, but I would say that this should be highlighted. And I have seen startups do it a lot, so maybe a very big MNC or an established company, they don't write much about themselves in a way. But then startups are always inclined towards attracting the right talent and especially at the early stage of their growth, right? So they will always like to invite people to give them a similar kind of feelings and vibes, why they're so important to them. Okay, so this is one part. Now comes the job summary. So this is where you probably start with a very small description about what kind of person you are looking for. So like in this case, if you see, there's a mention of experienced and driven digital marketing and lead generation specialist. Okay. So now you already mentioned that we are not looking for fresher. We are looking for someone who has proven credentials in the field of digital marketing and lead generation. Okay. And you also mentioned that if someone has been working for the IT training courses, that would be good. So this is what you highlighted over here in the job summary. Okay. Now, this will also make candidates think that if I don't have a similar kind of experience, whether shall I apply to this company or not? Because all these details would come later on, but the job summary gives them a glimpse about what they are expected to do or what they're expected out, what is expected out of them as a candidate even before they apply to this position. Okay. So again, this becomes very, very important. And then comes the your roles and responsibilities, the duties that you're going to perform on a daily basis as part of your job, which might be very similar for most of the other companies also. Okay. So these are basically technical details and you can highlight as many as possible. But I would say that don't put too many things because nobody is going to read such a lengthy job description anyways. So I would say having 10 to 15 key points are more than sufficient. Anything that goes beyond 10 or 15 points would be a killer, for this kind of thing. Okay. And then finally, if you have to add something, so then you can add at the end so that candidates can read more about this particular job. Okay. So that's like an example I was talking about, and I'll show you a few other examples also. The reason I wanted to show you these examples because then you'll be able to relate to what I'm talking about. So yeah. So any questions at this point of time? Okay. So now let's talk about the process. So job requirement is basically nothing but getting the details for which you have to form this job description, right? So as I mentioned that you need to sit down with the team, and that will normally involve someone from that department. So let's say if you're hiring for a design department, so some of the stakeholders from the design department must sit down with you, and they try to explain their requirements. And also there would be HR or hiring managers or the talent acquisition team, which will sit down over there, and they will come up with their own versions of what they're expecting out of the candidates. Okay. So these are some of the key, you can say, components, and also uh, it involves in the different stages of the job requirement formation, right? So the first thing is about the work experience. Okay. So now how do you arrive at the work experience? Okay. So how do you decide that what is the right or the optimal level of work experience required for this kind of job? Okay. So there are two, three ways of thinking about this. Okay, so one way, one straight way could be, let's say you already have a team member who is working in that profile, and that person is the right candidate who is handling, and for some reason maybe you need one more person, or maybe you're replacing that person for some reason, right? So one immediate thing could be, why not hire someone as a like-to-like replacement for that person? Okay, now, if that happens, it's good. But if that doesn't work, like if you don't have the like-to-like kind of replacement for that person, so you would always think that you'll always have a minimum threshold. I don't think uh, even though there are certain rules for which you also have some kind of maximum threshold, right? For some other reasons, not related to the pay structure and the experience. But yeah, I'll talk about that later on. But normally, for most of the job requirements, you'll always have a minimum threshold saying, okay, I need to hire someone with 3 to 6 years of experience, or minimum 3 years of experience. If you don't have anything, so you know that, okay, this is the bare minimum that we would need. So maybe in the like-to-like replacement, you might not get the similar experience kind of person like 6 plus or 8 years. But you know that even if someone comes with 3 plus years of experience, that person should be able to execute this job properly, right? So that's how you can look upon that. And also, uh, it's not just related to the number of years of experience. Okay. So sometimes it also becomes very critical for the companies that they hire someone who has the similar background. For example, if you're hiring for a telecom industry, right? So if you hire a fresher, or if you hire, let's say, someone who is coming from the non-telecom industry, right? So you might have to provide a lot of information to this new candidate who is very new to the industry. So again, this could become one of the things for the work experience, that you also need to hire someone who has worked in that industry, like telecom industry for that matter. One of the obvious things could be related to the domain. Okay. So whether that person comes from the finance background or marketing background, so that is again very much essential. So your work experience will cover all these kind of aspects of that person. Okay. Now comes the educational qualification. So I think in the last session also I heard a very good question that is it so important, and or why, like after a while, whether it should be the skills and the experience that should matter more than the educational qualification, right? So I think this is also up to the companies. So I have seen a lot of companies are very flexible about educational qualification as long as they get the right candidate. For example, if I talk about the IT industry, okay. So now in the IT industry, you will see people coming from different kind of educational backgrounds. Like, so for example, people might be having bachelors in computer applications, or there are people who are coming with a qualification in IT, something like a BSc IT or MSc IT. Then there are engineers, who come with a background of bachelors of engineering in computer science or information technology and so on. So there could be different kind of educational qualifications, right? And at the same time, there are people who are applying to a job and they might be graduate, maybe a graduate from a regular college without any kind of IT knowledge, but they might have done something like a certification, 1 year certification or 1 year diploma in the IT, right? So no, the company has to be very, very clear about what they're hiring for, and what kind of educational qualifications are very, very important for them. Okay. So now maybe I would say that again, if you're hiring for a position which is more of a fresher, entry level kind of position, right? So in that case, yes, educational qualifications will get a lot of weightage, but eventually, maybe a department head or hiring manager would be more concerned about if we are finding the people with the right kind of skills and expertise. So in that case, the education qualification can become little more flexible, saying, okay, you can be a graduate, you can be a postgraduate, doesn't matter whether you're a graduate in IT or not. But if you have 5 years of experience in IT, so I'm still open to hire you, right? So, so that's the next thing. Okay. Now, physical ability. Now, this is maybe not relevant to every job profile, but some of the job profiles which requires a lot of movement or certain hardships, especially I'm talking about, let's say, going to a coal mine kind of thing and all that stuff, right? So sometimes, yes, physical ability and few other attributes of a person becomes very important. For example, if you're applying for defense services, maybe you're applying for a role of, let's say, cabin crew member. So there, those kind of physical abilities and your personality traits and all, that will become more important, right? Now, when it comes to personality traits, it also involves your interpersonal skills. What kind of personality do you have? Do you have a pleasing personality, whether you have a leadership skill and all those kind of things, you're good at the negotiation and all those stuff, right? So all those could be also very, very important part of your job requirement. Okay. So again, there's no thumb rule saying, okay, all of these should be highlighted in every job profile. Like some of the job profile might need these detailings in terms of the job requirements. Okay. So you also need to consider that whether this is important, like maybe for an IT manager kind of role, you might not even think about something like a physical ability as one of the job requirements, right? You probably would not like to highlight something because anyone can do that job, sitting in their home or in front of the laptop. Okay. So you just need people with good skills, good IT skills. Okay. So their physical ability might not be very important in these kind of roles and positions. Okay. So you also need to understand what you need to include and what you need to leave out. Okay. Then comes the communication skill and the soft skills. Now again, this is becoming very critical, especially if you're hiring for any kind of job that involves a lot of communication and also uh, a job which involves managing a team or which is more of a leadership kind of position, right? So, for example, if you're running a call center, if you're running a customer support team, so in these kind of teams, communication skill and soft skills would be very, very important. But maybe if you're hiring a developer, I'm not saying that communication skill is not important for them. This is actually important for everyone today, I would say. But still, you would say that someone who is a very good programmer and coder, and that person might not be very strong in terms of the communication skill. but can be very significant contributor to the team, right? Because at the end of the day, that person is supposed to write code, deliver an error-free program for your company, right? And then someone from the team leader or management can look after and communicate the functional side of the IT product or whatever he's developing. So, so you also need to see, like, as I mentioned, that what could be the negotiables and non-negotiables for that particular, job position. Okay. And of course, finally the technical knowledge. When I say technical knowledge, it doesn't mean that it's only about the IT and the technology related knowledge. Every job description will have something related to how the job is done. For example, uh, you might be hiring a salesperson, okay, but you expect that salesperson to be very good with the Microsoft Excel sheets and the Microsoft PowerPoint presentation and so on, okay. So that becomes more like a technical knowledge that person must possess with respect to that particular job position, okay. So any questions over here?
Hi, Vivek. I have
Yeah, hi.
two
Yeah,
questions actually.
yeah.
Uh, One is in a lot of job descriptions,
Mm-hmm.
there are two things that are mentioned. One is mentioned job description,
Mm-hmm.
your uh, experience and a
Mm-hmm.
relevant experience.
Okay.
So I have came across this relevant experience and
Mm-hmm.
experience. So what is the difference between the two?
Right. So I'll tell you, see, when it comes to experience, we talk about a lot of generic stuffs over there. Okay. And it could be, let's say, I'm hiring for a digital marketing role. Okay. And if you have an experience in marketing over the last 4 or 5 years, so that's kind of an experience that I'm looking for, that you must be from the marketing domain. But the relevant experience can become something like, have you run the meta ads previously? If not, then maybe there's a question mark that whether I should hire you and train you, or whether I would like to hire someone who's already experienced in that meta ads campaigns. So this becomes more like a relevant experience. So relevant experience becomes a little more specific to the job role. Sometimes, a company hire people based on the idea that after hiring, they will provide you some kind of training. You already have most of the basic skills, you have the experience, so they expect you to learn these things on the job itself. But sometimes they might look for someone who can be a go-getter from the day one when they join the team. So in that case, a relevant experience becomes very important, and this could be with respect to any job parameter, not only the tools and the platforms that I'm talking about, but also it could be related to, let's say, industry. Like you might be a very good salesperson, but do you have a relevant experience in the telecom industry? Because our domain, the how sales works in the telecom industry is maybe different from how it works in the retail industry, for that matter. Okay,
Okay,
so
so
yeah,
it is something like people have to, I would say, recruiter has to specify if they are asking that what is your relevant experience and a relevant experience. Then what is that relevant experience that
mhm,
they're seeking, whether it
yeah,
is a specific technology or tool or domain.
yeah.
So it needs to be very specific, uh, described in the complete job description.
Right. And sometimes, the relevancy can also be in a way that a lot of people make a career switch, right? So let's say you might have been a very good person in the customer support role, but now you're planning to make a transition from customer support to marketing. So again, in this
Okay.
case, you might not have the relevant experience for that, but then you think the skills and the qualifications that you possess, so that might be very good to even handle a marketing role for that matter, right? So these things can vary, again, like I just give you 4 or 5 examples to
Okay.
help you understand that how the relevancy could be figured out. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Another question I have with
Mm-hmm.
respect to the personality traits that you
Mm-hmm.
say.
Right.
So, so when we are talking about a recruiter, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and having a discussion with the hiring manager, uh, at that moment of time, these personality say for example, I'm talking in a scenario where there is a requirement,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so it needs to be specified in the job description that say this is a trait that we are looking at, this specific, say for example, good at stakeholder management. That person, you should
Hmm.
be very good at stakeholder management. So
Right.
this needs to come out in the job description very uh,
Yes, definitely. See, I mean,
okay.
a lot of companies would mention that we need a go-getter, right? So the moment you use a word like go-getters, you are basically referring to someone who is probably very proactive in his or her approach, right? And someone who can get the things done very quickly. So these might not sound like a very specific job requirement, but yes, these are very important for that role to function properly. Okay, I'll give you another
Okay.
example. Um, if you're doing a project sales, especially to the government entities, okay. So now one of the skills written there could be about the licensing and negotiation, bargaining, etc. Right? So now these are very important skills for them to function properly. So maybe project report and quotation and RFP and all that can be prepared by anyone who has good understanding of the industry. But if someone is not good at licensing, might not be able to get the project for the client. Okay. So then this entire job would fail for the company because eventually it's not just the document presentation and all that stuff, but also when very specific thing that can help them cross the line in, in order to win
Okay.
or the project. Yeah.
Okay. So another question comes to mind, but I guess that would be in the further slides. Actually, I think so.
Hmm.
It is something that how as a recruiter or a hiring
Hmm.
person, how
Hmm.
do I assess this personality trait? It cannot be basis the resume, because uh,
Yeah, of course.
it is written,
See,
"I am a go-getter." It does not imply that the
right,
person is a really good
right,
fit for
right.
that. Yeah.
So see, that's why, we have multiple rounds of, screening and interview for a particular job, right? So you have some technical rounds, you have HR rounds, then you have some rounds for soft skills and so on. So all those kind of rounds are created in a way to test different skills of that person. Okay.
Okay.
So only testing that technical knowledge would not be sufficient. So as you mentioned, maybe you'll put that person into some kind of role-based scenario, maybe give them a situation and see what his or her response is with respect to that question, right? Or maybe hear out the ideas from them at least. Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe,
Thank you. Thank you.
ask them some references from their previous work experience that how did you,
Yes.
when you say you're a go-getter, can you quote some examples? Something like that,
Yes. Sure.
right? All right, so thank you. And
Thanks, Naveen.
yeah, so so I'll just move forward, and in case if you guys have more questions, we can discuss, in between or towards the end of the session. So now, talking about the different kind of the methods and the strategies that we deploy when it comes to the job requirements. Okay. So, so one of the things could be very simple interview method when, you as an analyst go and ask questions about, their role and everything. Okay. So that's one of the modes for the interview, which is basically known as interview method. Okay. So interview method is basically asking all these questions relevant to their role. Okay. Now, observation method is a little different from the interview method. So here is, you uh, act like an outside analyst. You don't ask them direct questions, but then you try to see how they go about their job function, what exactly they do in their day-to-day life when they're performing certain tasks. Okay. And you'll probably understand that, okay, apart from, and this is very helpful because, maybe when you do an interview, you will probably get to know more about the roles, responsibilities, their day-to-day task, activities, and all. Okay. But some of the things like Abhida and we were discussing about this go-getter kind of thing, right? So these might not be apparent, but yeah, then you see, let's say there's a salesperson and who is making a call to the client, and you just sit down and observe him or her. So you'll probably understand that, what kind of skills would make that person uh, be more successful when it comes to that kind of job role. How that person goes about greeting the client, how it that person goes about making a very engaging conversation with the client, right? So all of these kind of things can be observed, and then you can come to a conclusion saying, okay, yeah, these are the things that must be there to evaluate a candidate. Okay. The third one is the questionnaire method, wherein you have some standard questions, right? And you just prepare these standard questions and then set them up, asking very important things like minimum years of experience, number of tools, which tools, etc. All those which can have more clear answer, or even if you put it in the, let's say, MCQ kind of thing, people should be able to opt for the right options from there, right? So something like that. And and then finally, it's the daily method, which is basically you get more details about every single thing that an employee does on a daily basis. So all their day-to-day task, activities, everything for that matter, and which will help you understand the little nuances or the technicalities of that job. Okay, what that person is supposed to do. Okay. Any questions, by the way? All right. So I think benefits are pretty clear, but I'll still tell you a little bit about that. So first, of course, is the selection of the right candidate. So as a hiring manager or as a recruitment person, your job is done if you hire the right person for that particular job, right? So that is the first thing. And that's in fact the most important benefit, I would say. Okay. Second important thing is it also helps employee to adjust in different working standards. Okay. Now consider this, there's an individual contributor. Okay. And maybe see, everyone starts as an individual contributor in our roles, right? Nobody is like a team leader from the first day of their job. There could be very exceptional scenarios where maybe somebody is a team leader from the day one, but most of the time you will you will get hired as an individual contributor, and then you grow up the ladder slowly and gradually or quickly based on your company and your own growth, right? So now, let's say I have been an individual contributor and a company hires me for a team role where I have to not only look after my task and duties, but also manage 5 or 10 other employees. Okay. Now, there's no right way to evaluate me whether I could be a good team leader or not, especially if I don't have any kind of experience for that matter. Okay. So if you write down the job specifications in a better way, it might be able to help me understand that what I'm supposed to do over there. Okay. So if ask, it will tell me you're supposed to mentor 5 people. Okay. Then first question I will ask myself is whether can I be a good mentor or not? And if I can be a good mentor, if I see that, okay, I have mentorship capabilities, maybe I have not performed that in the job role, but maybe in the college, I have taken some task where I have performed the role of a mentor, let's say for my junior students, being a senior student in the final year, I might be playing the role of a mentor to, let's say, first year students in the engineering college. So that's a good example of, how you can relate things and help employees also understand that whether they will be able to become successful in those kind of work standards or environments, right? So this is very important. If the job specification can highlight few things related to that. Okay. Now, the third thing, of course, is the reduction in the manpower cost, because if you're hiring the right people very quickly, so it involves a lot of cost reduction for the company, not only in terms of the hiring of the hiring cost for that matter, but also the retention cost and other things, the attrition related losses that company make. So all those costs can be reduced. Okay. Now, another benefit of a very good job specification is the job satisfaction. Now, if I know that from the day one that this is what I'm supposed to do and I'm mentally ready for that, or maybe even if I've not done that thing in the past, but I know that, this thing will excite me. Okay. This thing will give me more triggers. so that I can perform better in my job. So I will definitely like to apply for that job, irrespective of whether I have the experience or not. Okay. So that would mean that, I'll give a much harder try to make this job successful. And because I also love that idea that I can, be a team leader, I can guide 5 or 10 people. It's not just me working, but I can also help other learn on the job. So if this gives me some kind of satisfaction, so definitely it will reduce the turnover, for the employees, right? And finally, it's also helpful for training and development. So it's like in byproduct, right? So if you're having good team members, so everyone learns from each other, right? Somebody can become a mentor, somebody can become a trainer in the team, and then that person can guide the others also, right? And also learning skills from each other also means that you are upskilling within the team itself. Okay. So all those are like quite good benefit that comes out from a very good specification. Okay. So now before we move to the other part, so let's try to understand that what exactly are the objectives of a job specification. Okay. Now jobs can be of different types, right? There's no like even in single organization, you can probably find 10 or 20 or even more different kind of job roles. Okay. And each of these job roles might require very, very different kind of skill sets to get the maximum output. Okay. Now, job specification, what it does is when it lays down all the important details related to that job, whether it's in terms of the qualification, education, experience, or the skill sets required, right? Or even things such as what we talked about, personality traits and team experience or managerial experience, right? Everything. So eventually it will help the employee achieve the objective of a job very clearly. Okay, I'll give you one example. So again, I'm referring back to my client example of that particular job. So they're very, very clear that even though they are planning to hire a person with 5 years of experience, they are looking for someone who can be an individual contributor. Now, this is very important. Now, sometimes with time and experience, it is assumed that, once you have gone up the ladder, maybe with 5 years of experience, people would assume that if they go to a team, they're expected to do more of a mentoring or supervising kind of role over there. Okay. But maybe a startup has a different idea for that role. So they expect you to be an individual contributor. But at the same time, they also mention that this person must have the ability to grow as a team leader eventually because we're going to add more team members in the future. But initially, it will be an individual contributor role. Okay. So they're very clear about what is the objective that needs to be achieved from this particular job function. But someone, let's say, who doesn't do that job day in, day out, let's say running a paid campaign on Google and Facebook. So that's more like a technical skill. So if you're not doing that day in, day out, and just now we are being hired for that particular role, so it would not mean that you will actually do that job properly, right? But someone who is doing it, yeah, they can still be a very good team member and team leader for that matter, right? So today they start as an individual contributor, but maybe tomorrow, once the team grows and they have 5, 10, 20 people working under them, they can still handle that part, right? So it's very important that the objective of a job specification is fulfilled in this kind of scenario. Any question? Anything with respect to this or any other thing that we have discussed till now? Okay. So now I'll talk about few examples and all because I think it's good to know. See, most of the basic details we already discussed, and I don't see too many details coming over there, right? Now, I think the best way would be I'll walk you through some of the roles, and I'll also talk about some very specific thing with respect to the job roles and the entire scenarios of, how it is being published and being comprehended by the candidates. Okay. So we'll look at some of the examples and we'll also discuss some of the questions over there. Okay. Right. So, yeah, what I'll do is I will simply write few things and then we are going to see as a live example how we can go about designing that, right? With respect to whatever we learned till now. So I want to make this a little more practical in nature. Okay. Any idea that what kind of roles shall we talk about? Give me two, three ideas, and then maybe I'll go about this and I'll show you from the scratch, how we go about it. Or I can pick my own example. So what I'll do is I will take you to this first thing, okay? We'll talk about the method and I'll give you a scenario saying that I want to hire for a performance marketing manager. Okay. Now, some of you might be thinking about what a performance marketing manager is. How would I know that what exactly that person does and so on? Okay. So for, just to make your job easier, I'll probably read out through this particular job description and then we'll talk about if you are being put into that position, how would you go about this entire exercise from the beginning? Okay, right? So this is the job description, sorry, job title, which is performance marketing manager. Okay. And performance marketing manager, for those of you who don't know, is basically someone who runs paid ad campaigns. So if you're familiar that, today most of the marketing happens online or digitally, right? And you will use different channels like Google, Facebook, Instagram, etc. to promote your product or service. Okay. So you might have a certain product, let's say you have maybe hair accessories. Okay, I'm just taking an example. So my product market is D2C brand with hair accessories. Okay, right. And now I'm hiring someone who can handle the ad campaigns for me. Okay. Now I'll also read out and explain these things so that you get a little perspective about what we're talking about, and then we'll do some kind of role-playing kind of scenario to make this happen. Okay. So this description reads as we are looking for a full-time on-site role meta ads manager. So this is something which comes directly from the client, right? So very important keywords. It's going to be full-time role, and this is going to be on-site role. That means there's no work from home in this kind of role. Okay, and Then this is going to be Meta ads. As I mentioned initially also that Meta is a platform, common name given to Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Okay. So if someone handles that, so that this person is supposed to be a good fit for this kind of role. Okay. Now, she has also mentioned that she or he will manage and execute successful advertising campaigns. So basically, as I mentioned, that paid campaigns, paid advertising campaigns have to be managed by this person who is going to join this company. And then they have some other day-to-day task, which is basically a mixture of developing these advertising strategies, tracking and analyzing campaign performance, and also generating the reports uh, to, of course, improve the overall campaign performance and the ROI, which is return on investment, right? So basically, anyone who can run paid campaigns and get a very good result for the company. Now, what could be a good result for a company like this, right? So they need to generate online sales. So the more number of hair accessories they are able to sell, so this will mean that the performance marketer is performing better. So that's one of the reason that I also call as performance marketing manager because their care is involved running ad campaigns and generating the positive return for the company. Okay. Positive return would mean that if you are paying, let's say, uh, 5 lakh rupees to Google for ad campaigns and your profit margin is, let's say, 50%. Okay. So if you are I'm just writing it down for the better understanding. 5 lakhs of ad spend results into 20 lakhs of sales with profit margin of 50%. Okay, right? That will mean that they're able to generate 5 lakhs of profit over here, right? I'll not get into much details about these things, but I just want to give you the concept clarity. So this person could be a very good performance marketing manager because he's able to generate a positive result for the client. Okay. And then these are some of the details about their work and everything. Okay. So now I'll come back to these details later on. So now let's go back to the slides. And now I want this to be more interactive in nature. Okay. So this is how you're going to learn more about this. So now you tell me what kind of methods are we going to deploy for the preparation of the job requirements for this kind of role, whether it's going to be interview method, observation method, or questionnaire, daily, and so on. So anyone who wants to come forward, yeah. Yeah, Vida, you want to speak?
Uh, yeah, in my view, we should go for a questionnaire method
Mm-hmm.
uh, in this profile and a role that we are going to ask.
Okay.
Because mm, the role specification asks something very specific.
Mm-hmm.
Specific in terms of the KPIs are quite transparent that this is exactly what you get and
Mm-hmm.
this is exactly what is expected out of the work that you're going to do. So it can be a direct question set which the person whom I'm hiring, they would be able to answer, and I can have a black and white picture in that case.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. Do you think any of the other methods can also work? I mean, see, there's no thumb rule saying that only one of these methods should be deployed. Okay, so you can also have multiple methods being deployed
Yeah.
to come up with a proper job requirement. So, do you think that questionnaire method is the only one,
No, no, no.
or yeah?
Definitely, there are other methods as well.
Mm-hmm.
So interview method is always going to work, where
Mm-hmm.
we can ask the direct questions and by way of the answers, the conversations can be through. So
Mm-hmm.
interview method definitely works. Uh, Observation method can also be used. It is not something like, as you said, as you rightly put it across, it is not one method that can be put
Mm-hmm.
across, and the information can be getting at hand. So observation method can also be used, wherein there can be some specific task on the meta platform that is given to uh, the person, and we ask them to solve that particular complete uh, activity, or perform that complete task. That is also we can do.
No, by the way, this is basically with respect to the job requirements, not with respect to the selection or the shortlisting or screening criteria for the candidates. It's mainly with respect to the job requirements formation. So the questions and the interview that we're talking about is basically about having this kind of discussion with with an existing employee to get a hang of things so that you can come up with the right kind of job requirement.
Okay.
Okay, so no worries. I mean, I think that was
Then
very
in that
helpful.
case,
Hmm.
sorry, I think so. I did not take that also into account. If we take that
Uh-huh.
into account, then daily method is the best method that we can use, because um, we get to know how exactly the performance, how exactly the trend of
Hmm.
the work is, and basis that we can observe, uh, formalize questions, and then create the job description.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
So yeah, thanks, Avida. So
sure.
I'll share my views in a while. So any other person who would like to talk about any of the methods and the strategies that
Uh,
should be
yes,
deployed in this case?
yes, sir. I'm Rekha.
Yeah, hi Rekha. Yes.
Yeah, yes, sir. Just want to say the method of which we can apply, that is daily method,
Mm-hmm.
because the performance is very important in this case. Like we are hiring the performance manager.
Mm-hmm.
So can we just look at the records of the daily task which is performed by the manager or the person we are hiring, and we can keep a track on that while the performance is we can measure the performance and task which is like the output of the manager in the terms
Mm-hmm.
of our requirements or what we are looking for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. So I think it should be applied for this position or designation
Okay.
in the basis on the basis of the performance.
All right. So fair enough. And anyone who would like to say no to any of the methods, like maybe one method that we think that should be rejected or would not be very helpful. No one. Interview method. Okay. So see, my opinion would be observation method is something that might not be very helpful. I'll tell you why. Because if you're looking at a very specific kind of role, which is little more technical in nature, and even if you deploy some kind of observation, you might not be able to even understand what this person is doing and whether that person is doing the task correctly or not, because you are probably not an expert to analyze that. Okay, from especially if you're having an outside view of that. Okay. So observation method might not work in this kind of scenario I'm talking about, right? Interview method is something, see, every role has, doesn't matter, how specific that role is, but you'll always have some open-ended questions, okay? And I don't see that why that cannot be here also, okay? So interview would still fit into this, even the questionnaire and the daily method, all of these will fit into this because questions could be very specific, like you want to highlight these are the tools that you must know, or whether you have performed this kind of task, or have you achieved this kind of result, and so on. So there could be some direct question, there could be some open-ended questions also. And finally, the daily chores, like, what the employee does uh, from morning. Let's say he opens up the dashboard and then he will go through the campaign, seeing how much money has been spent, what is the first level of observation that person will make, whether it's going to enable the campaign or disable the campaign and things like that. So all of these kind of things becomes the task that they normally perform during the day multiple times, like whether we have to increase the bidding, decrease the bidding, and things like that. Okay. So yeah, so this is very important. Now, let's go to this particular part, which is about the job requirements. Okay. So what all do you think would you deploy? Like work experience? Would you say yes or no to this when you are coming up with the job requirement? So would you consider that or not?
Yes,
Yes,
we
right?
would. Yeah.
Okay. So I think, yeah, it's pretty easy in this context because you're looking for an experienced performance marketing manager. So obviously, you need to see the real, experience, both relevant and anything related also would work over here, right? In terms of the years of experience, industry, the tools, platforms, everything for that matter. Education qualification, can this be of important concern in this case? Yes, no, maybe. What do you say?
Not too much relevant, but a technical.
So yeah, I think this could be more like an negotiable kind of thing, right? So maybe I don't have a very strict criteria for education qualification because this person, irrespective of what kind of education background that person comes from, they can still be very good performance marketing manager if they have learned the tool, they have performed the role in the past few years for the different companies. So I think in this case, yes, this might not be very important criteria, and maybe there could be some openness around this, or maybe this could be a negotiable kind of thing that whether maybe sometimes, if you have very similar kind of application, so client might say maybe an engineer would be preferable, but whether they write it in the JD, uh, maybe not, right? Because that will also mean that if you're only restricting the applications for the engineers, so non-engineers who are very good performance marketers cannot apply to this role. Okay. So you have to be very, very careful about what you are writing and what you're not writing. Okay. So it's very important.
But
So
the basic education is required, right?
see, again, that's in this case, yes, I would say maybe a graduate would still be required because that person is still, supposed to perform certain functions, irrespective of their educational background. Okay. But that might not be a very, how do I put it, hard-coded kind of thing that you should come from BSc in mathematics or a B in computer science kind of thing. Okay. Physical ability, how about it? No, right? That's great. So yeah, I think that's a fair thing. How about the personality traits?
It is relevant.
Okay, and can you highlight few things?
The person should have good interpersonal skills and should have good uh, leadership skills
Mhm.
in order to perform the best in the job.
Okay. So what I'll probably do is I'll start writing a few things over here, and then we will see how much are we able to match up to the exact requirements. So you mentioned that we might need a mix of methods to be followed. Interviews. Then you have a questionnaire method. And then you have the third one, which is daily method. Now, let's say for the qualifications, I would say I'll just try to keep it simple. Uh, any graduate can apply, right? Now, in terms of experience, I think work experience is there and physical ability. So physical ability, we don't even need to talk about that. So that should not be put in the job description anyways. And experience could be, let's say, what client has mentioned, 5 years of experience in paid campaigns or performance marketing. I'll just try to keep it very simple for understanding, right? And personality traits and the communication skill. Okay, so these are something related to the overall personality of the person, both the things. So now we'll talk about that. So what all do you think should be part of the personality traits for this kind of person? You can write down in the chat window also, in case if you don't want to speak out, that's fine. Patience, okay. Can we say diligent? Diligent, I think yeah, good communication skill is something which will deal in the communication part. Honest, hardworking, yeah. So I think that's what we are talking about, diligent. Uh, Decision making, yes, this is very important. Communication again, teamwork and all. Team member, maybe, maybe not. Okay, because again, in this scenario, he's an individual contributor. So that might not be the, yeah, but in future, he's supposed to handle a team. Yeah, so in that way, self-starter, listening skill, yes, that's good one. Problem solving is important, right?
Innovative.
Innovative, okay. Can I say analytical also? Because he has to play around with a lot of data and come to a decision making. Right. Leadership skills. Yeah, I mean, it could be.
Goal achiever.
Yeah, you can say target or goal oriented. Yeah, so that's a good enough thing. Okay, and then we have the communication skills and the soft skills. So, what kind of communication and soft skills do you think this person would be requiring? Do you think it's important for his success?
Yes. Communication skills is very relevant.
Sorry.
Yes, it is very relevant. Communication skills is very relevant.
Hmm. So, yeah, so I think someone mentioned presentation skill because eventually he will have to present this data to their management, saying, okay, this is what we have achieved and so on, right? Listening also is a part of the communication. So I'll put this over here. Okay. Then, anyways, team management and all, leadership skills and all, that will also come over here. Yeah. Active listening, yes. Confidence, patient, maybe confident, right? Okay. Technical knowledge, of course. So I'll not get into much in the technical knowledge because this entire job description would have all these technical details related to the job. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just try to make it easier for you to understand so that we know that see, public speaking, I'm not sure is required. Uh, for the simple reason, this person is supposed to handle his own job, right? He's going to manage this performance marketing. And at the same time, he will probably have a small team working together with him. So public speaking, I don't think is a very important criteria in this case. Okay. Yes, cross-functional coordination, that's a very good point. So this could be important for success because he will have to collaborate with the designers, content writers, and other team members in the marketing, right? So cross-functional coordination is required, relationship building, mm, coordination. See, again, relationship building comes into play when you have to uh, kind of manage, different teams, different clients, and all that stuff, right? I'm not sure it's very important. See, that is, see, this way we can list down so many things, but you also need to understand that what are the most important thing that a person must have. So somebody mentioned public speaking. So public speaking is not maybe the most important thing that person would need to perform better in this job, right? So likewise, you have to weigh each and every option and think about what could be ruled out. Let's say body language. So again, it's an internal team. Uh, if you put all these stuff, body language, yes, of course, it's very important for everyone. But is it so critical for that person to perform better in the job? Maybe the answer is no. I mean, he's still, if he's a decent communication person, he can still the job properly. So this might not be the non-negotiable thing, according to me. Okay. Multitasking, yes, multitasking could be one of the things because he has to handle so many tools, platforms, right? And so this would probably come over here. Now, what I'll do is I will walk you through. So yeah, I can see a lot of things coming my way, but yeah, I'll just put a hold over here because I need to go through a lot of other things, maybe a couple of more examples. But what I'll do is I'll quickly walk you through this entire job description that was provided by the client. Okay. And just give me a moment. I think I need to plug in. Yeah. So I was basically talking about, sorry, just a minute. Yeah. So I was basically talking about what kind of description should go over here so that we can make that person understand that what he or she is supposed to do as part of the daily job. So now you know the summary of this job, right? So we are basically looking for a full-time meta ads manager who can work from office and who can manage some paid campaigns on Facebook, Instagram. And most of his, sorry, daily task would involve things such as developing the advertising strategies, tracking. So analytics become very important over here and analyzing the campaign performance and even generate reports. And also reporting is also very important part of his job. And in order to improve the campaign efficiency and the ROI part. Okay. Now let's look into what the client is looking for. So this is like something which is very important, your contribution to the team. Okay, so this is what they have given us as a JD, and we'll try to translate this into a very good JD for that matter. Okay, so what they're saying is manage and optimize digital marketing campaigns on Facebook ad platforms. So this is more like a one technical requirement of the job, right? Work closely with the marketing team to understand our business objectives and the marketing goals. So I think someone mentioned that that person should be goal oriented or target oriented, right? And since he needs communication skill because he needs to talk to the marketing team and understand their requirements, right? So listening skills are very important. Cross-functional coordination, someone was talking about. So this is very important for this person, right? And yeah, and the other parts of the communication too. Okay. Now, if you look at the other things, so this is more technical, monitor and analyze campaign performance metrics to identify areas for improvement. So analytical and someone who can run the ad campaigns and analyze the reports, all those kind of detailing. Okay. Manage campaign budgets and allocate resources effectively. Now, this is something which is very important skill. So I would say that, he must be very good in terms of the not only problem solving, but also planning. So planning is a very key personality trait that I would expect from someone like this person. Okay. So when you read these technical details, you'll also be able to understand that what kind of skills and qualifications would be required for this job function to perform better. Okay, right? And then we have this one, provide regular reports and analysis to the founders on the campaign performance. So I think someone mentioned about the presentation skills because now this person also has to report to the founders, the directors of the company. So he must be able to present the data in the reports, and he should be able to explain that. So that also means that he should be confident. He should be able to make some decisions on the basis of that data and recommend the same to their founders. So decision making becomes very important, right? And he should be problem solver. So he should be able to analyze the data and tell the founders, okay, this is what I think should be doing. yeah, organizing, planning, organizing, all these kind of skills can come over here. Okay. So few of these things might overlap or, and can be exchanged between the personality traits and the communication soft skills, but I'm just listing them out over here uh, to make it more inclusive. Now we'll come to the next part, which is where they will talk about what they are looking for in the candidate. Now, this could be a mix of skills, qualifications, expertise, competencies, etc. Okay. So 5 years of experience in managing Facebook ad campaigns, strong knowledge of digital marketing principles and the best practices. Okay. So I think someone was asking me what would be the relevant and work experience, relevant work experience and simple work experience. So this would be the difference. Like someone with an experience in digital marketing principles is also good, but they're looking for very specific, someone with a relevant experience in Facebook ad campaigns. Okay. So there might be a person who is good with the digital marketing principles and other things, but that person might not be having a relevant experience in the Facebook ad campaign. So in that case, that person might not qualify or might not be the best candidate for this company. Okay. So other details like core experience with companies of a digital first nature. So now this is very important. Now they are looking at your experience. So they're basically saying that if you have worked for a traditional company, like I gave you an example of telecom versus non-telecom. So now digital marketing can be performed for any kind of clients, right? But here in this particular JD, what they're saying is that someone with a digital first nature experience. So this is very critical for them because if someone doesn't understand a digital first kind of business, then that person might not be able to perform according to them. Okay. So this is again a non-negotiable kind of thing. And they've written this again because they need someone with an experience in D2C companies, direct to consumer companies. So that means that, they are going to be someone with a digital first kind of nature. Okay. Then must have scaled business and campaigns. So now this is something, that can be discovered while having the interviews. Maybe not everyone can disclose the company related data, that what kind of campaign budgets they have managed and scaled, etc. Right? So maybe initial level of screening when you're doing that as an HR professional. So you'll be more concerned about the things that we have just highlighted, like 5 years of experience or managing meta ad accounts and all that kind of things, right? And digital first. So all of these are meant to be used for the screening purpose, but you would not know the scaling of the campaigns and all these details that will come up in the interviews when you conduct them, and you will be able to discover that what kind of budgets they have dealt with and what kind of proficiency they have, all these kind of things. So that can be only be analyzed by an expert. You might not be able to filter out because if you give a chance to anyone, they'll probably rate themselves higher in terms of the proficiency. But as an interviewer, let's say if I'm a subject matter expert and I'm hiring a candidate, so I'll be able to analyze that whether they have managed the campaigns effectively or not, or whether they have been able to scale it as per the budget that was allocated to them, right? So all these kind of details can be filtered out later on, but this might not be the screening criteria initially. Okay. Now, these are again very technical details, experience in optimizing campaigns for lead generation and familiarity with the campaign budget management, analytical problem skills. So I think your skills and qualifications are also mentioned, right? Ability to work in a team, strong communication presentation skill, and Facebook ad certification. Now, this is more of a qualification. Okay. But again, RA plus, that means we don't focus much on the certification, but more on the skills. So if you are good with the skills, certification could be a, side thing for me. So essentially, if you see, there are probably just 5 or 6 points that are good for the daily task, roles, and responsibilities, and rest of them are like detailing related to the experience, skills, etc. for this company, right? So now as an HR professional, you can take this data and then create and structure this entire JD in a better way. Okay. So any other questions or any inputs as of now based on this discussion, if you want to highlight something or ask something before we move forward? If you're able to relate to what we had discussed today.
So can you just explain the D2C companies, please?
Oh, D2C basically it's direct to consumer companies. Normally, if you think about brands such as First Cry, so First Cry is an example of direct to consumer company because they started selling directly to the consumers, first through the online platforms like
Okay.
their own website and marketplaces like Amazon, Flipkart, and all. And then eventually they entered into the retail space, right? So most of the modern brand today, including First Cry, Mamaearth, Mom's Co, and there's so many others. So all of them could be considered as a D2C brand or company. And their nature of business is also digital first. So I believe that now you're getting a hang of things like how would we go about, restructuring this entire JD, right? Or shall I take you to another example and explain that?
So you're asking for D2C.
Sorry?
You're asking for D2C. It is clear, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, this is another example of a job description. You can see a very similar format. This is from the Herky website itself. And you can see a little bit more on the job detailing side, like what kind of experience is needed, 7 to 12 years, and location, the working mode, whether it's work from home or office, and the key skills required. So these are the skills that they're looking forward because this is a job for the front-end software engineering manager, right? So they require someone with very good skills in the software development, especially with respect to the front end. So that's why they have mentioned all these skills which are relevant for the front end development over here. Okay. And these are the core areas like software development and industry. And if you go to the job description, so this is where you will find so yeah, this is something which is a good example. So I told you that why it's important for you to highlight certain attributes related to employment, when you're pitching your company. So you can see it says we have 2,500 plus employees worldwide, and our headquarters based in Austin, Texas. We have a strong global footprint with 50 offices in 43 countries. So all of these kind of things, kind of trigger your mind that, okay, yeah, maybe this company is having a global presence. If tomorrow, if you want to travel, you want to work in a different country, in a different role and all. So all these kind of things would attract you. Okay. And also a little bit more about, how they function and all these details. Okay. And then these are the exact job details, like job summary of what they're looking for. These are your daily day-to-day task, right? And then comes the experience and the skills that they're looking for. So I would say that, after this session, you should probably pick up any job profile and try to restructure it, maybe pick up something from the scratch. That would be the best way to go forward. And just start scribbling down this kind of job description. Okay. And Yeah. So any questions?
I have a question not related to this.
Hmm.
Uh, so in this job description, uh, we had a very specific requirement actually. So
Right.
which is like a technical also, and very very quite specific. So
Hmm.
anybody who has worked in this would only be a part of this. Say we have, so there could be a requirement wherein it's not very technical,
Hmm.
or I would say the job specification, there is a sort of job, uh,
Hmm.
say for example a marketing manager, okay, just a marketing manager,
Sure.
in a not a very big company, but where they do not have that bifurcation, but a marketing manager,
Hmm.
wherein marketing manager will have to handle both digital as well as traditional marketing concepts, and
Right.
handle everything like that.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so in that, what would be the key specifications that we should take in mind, where it is not very specific that this is what the qualification that we're looking at? Experience is what I understand would be their experience qualification, or um, so anything specific that we can take for those kind of roles.
See, I think what you're talking about and what I understand from the conversation is more of a generalist kind of role, right? So let's say this person might not be good with performance marketing or SEO or social media in general, but he's very good marketing strategist. He's probably a leader or team manager, right? And who can formulate strategies and plan and get this team to execute the plan and then look after the KPIs and decide that whether this has been a successful campaign for the
Yeah,
marketing, right? Something like that. Okay.
so it's like
So
he understands the complete plethora
yeah,
of work,
yeah,
but there is no specific, like there's no
hmm.
experience in performance marketing or specific in
Understood,
SEO marketing.
understood.
It's
See,
like,
eventually, if you look at a lot of leaders, and I'm talking specifically about the marketing leaders in this example. So, most of the people started their career in the traditional form of marketing, most of them. Okay. And eventually, they were able to get into the digital space more in the leadership or team management kind of role rather
yeah,
than, playing the role of execution in these kind of setup. Okay. So now for them, they just need the understanding of how these channels work. So you might not ask them questions such as whether you have run a paid campaign or not. Okay. Rather, you would ask them a question saying whether you have managed a team of performance marketers, SEO, social media, and all, right? So then you will be able to
okay,
understand whether this person can manage these kind of people or not, whether they have a very comprehensive knowledge of marketing and digital marketing, whether they understand different aspects of digital marketing, whether they're able to translate the company's business goals into KPIs and metrics and KRAs so that they're able to see, let's say, if I hire a social media manager, so how would I decide that my social media manager is performing a better role? Right? Whether she's able to grow my following base, let's say today it was 1,000 followers to maybe tomorrow 20,000 followers, and how she has been able to do that, right? So you're looking for a different kind of skill set. Again, it's very specific to, I would say, a role because you don't expect your marketing manager to run campaigns, but at the same time to understand how it is being run and how that person would evaluate that campaign, right? So you'll have to highlight those kind of qualifications or skills. Like it could be about planning, it could be about developing a strategy, right? And then communicating that as a brief to the team, that what they are supposed to do, tracking and their performance activities and everything. They might not run campaigns, but definitely they can track, right? They should be able to see what they have delivered and what they have not. They can have a daily reporting kind of structure. So all those kind of things you have to start thinking about. See, technical details, I would say there would be very few. Okay, let's be honest. If I have to create a job description like this, maybe there would be 4 or 5 pointers, or maximum 7 or 8 pointers, which will be more technical in nature. Apart from that, most of the stuffs that we're talking about would be little generic in nature. Okay, even based, for these kind of roles. Okay. So did I answer your question, or is there something?
No, no. In a way, yes, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you can let me know
So
if you need. Yeah.
no, I got the clarity. I was specifically thinking about the 5 6 pointers, wherein in
Mhm.
terms of experience and description and traits and physical ability.
Yeah.
In
See.
those terms, I was thinking. But what you said made complete sense, because this would come under the personality traits, or the communication skills, like how
Mhm.
how exactly their personality is, in order to, so I was just trying to uh,
Hmm.
measure it in that particular scale. But what you said made complete sense, actually. I got that.
Right. So see, you also have to weigh based on the job position. So
बंद है और
some of the job positions, they might require uh, more focus on the technical skills, right? And then the other job profiles, they might require more focus on the other parts, like the personality traits or the communication and the soft skill part, right? So eventually, as I mentioned, as I gave you an example of a negotiator or go-getter. So these are the things that you might expect from someone who's a leading a team. Okay, how would he ensure that his team is performing to the best of their abilities? So all those kind of things are equally important for them to function properly in their role, as compared to the technical skills that they might not be required to have, right?
Got it, got it.
So it will vary a lot. Sometimes, there has to be a balance. Sometimes this could be a completely personality and soft skill based kind of job profile also. Okay, especially for the leadership positions that we're talking about. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much.
So, I know this was a very crisp session, but I wanted to keep it very specific to the examples and all. And I wanted you to go through the same thing that we normally do. I cannot do the entire role-playing exercise over here where we talk to the stakeholders and interview and get into the other modes like observation and all. But somehow I wanted to make it a little relatable for you to understand how we go about this entire formation. Okay. So let me know if you have other queries, or otherwise we can stop.
Ladies, if you have any questions, please to ask.
I guess we are good.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right. So thanks everyone, and do some exercise, as in the same exercise that we try to do it in the classroom today. So that will give you even more clarity. Okay. Okay. Thanks everyone and have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
sir.
much, Vivek, for the wonderful insight.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.